Hello, I'm Helen Doubal, Head of Grants here at Hertfordshire Community Foundation. Thank you for joining us. In this recorded conversation, we explore how local community groups are helping to strengthen connections and promote community cohesion across Hertfordshire. We're pleased to be joined by two organisations we're proud to support. Sporting Aid is a Waltham Cross-based group using sport to bring people together, and we funded them recently in 2025. We're also joined by Hearts Welcomes Refugees, whom we've known since they began back in 2015 when they were known as Hearts Welcome Styrian Families. We've since grown into a network of over 200 volunteers supporting refugees and asylum seekers in Hertfordshire.
So what I'm really pleased about is that you've all agreed to come and chat about the importance of your group in relation to community cohesion, because we're living in really difficult times. There's an awful lot of daily dreadful things on the news about intolerance and hate, and I was privileged to come to Kate and Katie's event last night, where they were awarded the King's Award for Voluntary Service because of their fantastic work with their 200 volunteers. And at that event, you said, Kate, that this is the most toxic environment you've had to operate in since the beginning of the group. What Hertfordshire Community Foundation really aims to do is try and build community resilience. And we think that your groups are really great examples of that. So if you don't mind, just starting off by giving a quick overview in case some of the fund holders aren't sure of what you do, of starting off with what Hearts Welcomes Refugees does, and then we'll go to Happy. Thank you.
Okay. So as Helen has said, we were formed in response to the Syrian refugee crisis, and when David Cameron announced the Syrian Vulnerable Persons Resettlement Scheme back in 2015, that's when a group of people got together across the county, first of all to kind of encourage local authorities to take part in that scheme, because that was the way the scheme was set up, and then to get together a group of volunteers to support the families who came. So then we were supporting a particular group of people, Syrians, who spoke two languages, basically. Since then, the charity has changed dramatically, and that's really to do with the sort of changes of people who've been coming into our communities in Hertfordshire. So 2021, Afghan evacuees started to arrive, and we supported them, both those who were living in a hotel for quite a long time, but then have now kind of, quite a lot of them have moved into various communities in Hertfordshire, and we continue to support them. But the really kind of major change for us was the arrival of asylum seekers in Hertfordshire, starting from sort of 2022, 2023, because before that, there just simply hadn't been a significant asylum seeker population. So now we've gone, so I suppose in the last sort of 10 years, we've gone from supporting a particular group of people in family groups, to continuing to support people in family groups like the Syrians and the Afghans, but also supporting asylum seekers. And I think we totted up last year that we're supporting over 40 different nationalities and even more languages. And, every so often someone pops up and says, oh, I speak Oromo, and you think, well, I didn't even know that was a language. So there are lots of sort of challenges on that front. In terms of, so as Helen's mentioned, we now have 200 volunteers across the county doing a variety of things. Support we provide is very much kind of focused on helping people to learn English, because that's the key to integration, and also kind of supporting them through their journey, whether they're people who sort of settle here long term, or what we also have to kind of cope with is the fact that, asylum seekers are subject to being moved at very short notice, and so that means that we have to adapt our support to that as well, and that takes a toll on people. I met a a woman, Katie and I have been going around the various hotels that we support. I met a woman at one of those hotels who I recognised from when she lived in Dacorum, which is where I'm based. And when we were speaking to her, she said that she'd been in 5 different asylum locations in the last 3 years, and that's her and her family. So you can imagine the sort of disruption and dislocation that that causes. So we provide support in people's homes. We provide support in hotels. We're increasingly looking to provide support in community settings because that sort of has the advantage of getting people out of their homes or the hotels, and it also provides continuity of support for people who, whether they come under a resettlement scheme and the kind of official support ends, or where you've got asylum seekers who then get leave to remain, you know, they then move into a different phase of their life and have to establish themselves in their communities. So that's a sort of ongoing focus for us.
Thank you. That's super. And I know you do so much more. We could probably spend a couple of hours talking about your work because it's so detailed. There's a bit of a nice link there to Hafi because I know that when you mentioned hotels, I know that in some of your work, you've actually been involved with working with refugees or people in hotels. Anyway, Hafi, a quick overview of your work, and I know you have lots and lots of experience in the field, but Sporting Aid has been going for just a couple of years. Well, no, 3 now, isn't it? Sorry, over to you.
Yeah, my name's Hafi Rahman from Sporting Aid. We actually started just after COVID-19, so we were just under Sports England. And it was, we went to a conference and we found out a lot of affiliated sports was not aimed at vulnerable families, vulnerable young people, deprived areas. And myself and Lewis set Sporting Aid up. And we thought we were going to do one project. That's the honest truth. And it just rapidly grew so quickly. And we were quite surprised. But at the same time, we knew that the communities that we were working in was the right communities that we're meant to be working in. So overall, what we do is, it says it on the tin, Sporting Aid. We provide sports in the community. Our job is to make sure the financial barrier is not there for certain communities, making sure a wide range of diverse communities are involved in all of our sports activities. We deliver a range of sports activities from basketball, football. That's some elements of what we deliver, but then also the other side, we deliver courses. So we do coaching qualification and youth work qualifications as well, because we believe in like growing our own in the local community and they become role models in the community as well. We also work in antisocial behaviour areas where young people are causing a bit of nuisance, but they just need a bit of structured sports. I'm so sorry, just ringing now. But yeah, so we try our best to basically do various types of sports in the community. We do a consultation with all the young people and the families to make sure we find out what sports they need, what times they need us to run. Yeah, just sports, I guess. I don't know what else. Yeah, I'm really sorry.
No, that's fantastic, and you're leading into the next bit because you're really embedded in your community, and that's our perception, and that's one of the reasons we're really happy to fund you. Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about how you think? I mean, your work is really important in terms of community cohesion and embellishment, but how do you think what you're doing really makes it happen?
So when we started Waltham Cross, it literally, where Sarah came and visited us, it was literally a park where you had a whiff of drugs, cannabis, basically smelling in the area. So we managed to engage with those young people and just to find out what they would like to do. They were just bored. And it was 8 young people, and they were quite older young people, they're like 17, 18-year-olds, and they were from a diverse background. I just feel they were unwanted from the community. And we could see them with chalk. They were drawing out the lines for the basketball courts. And that still gives me goosebumps even talking about it. And we said to the young people, how would you feel like if we refurbished this with you guys? They didn't believe us, but we ended up doing some constructive basketball projects. And then a few months down the line, we managed to get a designer to come in. We asked the young people what colours they would like to do. Most of them ended up basically picking their colours, consulting the whole community. And then we ended up qualifying also 8 of those young people to become basketball coaches as well in the community as well. And they became staff members. Some of them ended up going off to university. I was explaining it to Danielle the other day that one of them's training up to become a doctor. And I was shocked when he said he's training up to be a doctor. I couldn't believe it. He's at university to study becoming a doctor. But from that one project, we were able to encourage other funders, other partners to get involved. We noticed when we were doing the basketball project, we noticed that it was more than 90% males, young males. So we wanted to start up a female project. We started a female project by the support from HCF, Girls Kicks, where we had a huge turnout of young females playing football, just kicking a ball, just learning if they could play football, and getting rid of that financial barrier. Because I didn't realise when we started sports that it's like £5 or £10 a week to pay and engage in sports. So we just wanted to get rid of that. On our first or second week, we had about 20 young females playing football with us, which was amazing. We also had female staff members as well for that session. We also started up the basketball project, which is the boxing session for young people that are that have got borderline mental health issues or feeling isolated. So we started this boxing session, which was to help young people to channel their energy into something. So it was more of a one-to-one focus. And then we had the gym facility that got installed by the council. We started a calisthenics project. So from one project, it started more projects and more projects and more. And we always consult with young people in the community and what else would they like in the area. So we're always excited to hear what the young people come up with. And sometimes we don't know ourselves and what they want as well. So we're thinking it might be this. But when we actually talk to these young people, it's just absolutely amazing to hear what they would like us to do. And then to hear some of them, they would love to become volunteers. They would like to become coaches. That gives me goosebumps, because that gives me a bit of breathing space, because I could see them becoming staff members and actually carrying on a sustainable model of the projects in a way. So instead of like short delivery, it's long-term delivery. So that's our community cohesion, community in a way. But yeah, we love it. I wish we could do it in more parks and more areas. We work in some of the hotels as well. Like we've met some asylum seekers, young people, which are amazing as well. We just love to do more and grow our volunteers and staff members, because we want these volunteers to become colleagues one day, because that's how I grew out of the service as well. So I want some of these young people to become staff members, colleagues, becoming equals, delivering these projects and being the voice for the community, and becoming an automatic role model for the community as well. Helen, you're on mute.
Thank you very much for being technically literate. So Kate and Katie, does what Happy says resonate at least across to your experience? Of course, you're addressing much more specific need, but the community cohesion is so important, isn't it, for you?
Yeah. And really interesting what Happy was saying about, kind of giving people opportunities to volunteer and contribute. Because that's another thing that we've made some there have been some good developments in that regard, and it's particularly important, I think, for everybody, because I think volunteering just generally kind of builds your confidence and your feeling of self-worth, etc. But it's really important for people who are kind of, particularly asylum seekers, who are kind of living in a kind of limbo, and that can really sort of rob people of their sense of self-worth, and that they can actually kind of do things for themselves. So we also have an advisory group who kind of feed back to us about what they think is needed. And we're very kind of like you, Happy, we're kind of dealing with people direct, we're kind of directly engaging. So we get a lot of feedback about what people's needs are. But I think sport is perhaps something that we haven't been able to develop so much because of these barriers to, joining costs and things like that. We have had, it's been different in different areas. So in some areas, people have been able to join a gym for free. Other areas they've not. People are quite reticent to kind of come out into the community and look for opportunities. But you know, we have, and unfortunately, I think with this sort of toxic environment that we're operating in, we have actually seen in one area there was a local kind of cricket club who were doing some outreach work in the park next to one of the hotels, and they decided that because of the environment, they didn't feel that their volunteers were safe and comfortable to carry on doing it, which was a great shame. So yeah.
That's really, really sad to hear. But I
Mm.
know you had been talking about some of the responses to this toxic environment from your volunteers, and how, in actual fact, the local community has in some ways risen up to counter that.
Yeah. So this year we've had over 70 new volunteers join us. I mean, there's always a kind of a turnover in volunteers as people sort of have to move on or have other commitments, but we've had 70 plus new volunteers, and it's mostly people who just think, these people who are protesting against migrants, they're not representing me. So I actually want to do something to, put my hand up and take action to help. So we've had lots of people kind of coming in who actually want to make a sort of positive contribution, and that's great.
And also you've had volunteers, you've had the people that you've been supporting with you long enough to have now been volunteering very actively and as part of your advisory group.
Yes, yeah.
That's right, isn't it?
So we've got sort of volunteers, and we're kind of thinking about, one of the terms that we use for them is kind of volunteer ambassadors, because we think they're kind of ambassadors for the charity, because they can actually kind of demonstrate the contribution that people can make. So we have people who kind of come and actually teach English classes because that's their background and they can do it. We operate out of a community hub in Hemel Hempstead, and our volunteers, including two women, one of whom is an asylum seeker and one of whom is a refugee, provide the lunch every Tuesday there. So that's open to the whole community who come in, and they kind of they really like the sort of diversity of food that's provided as well, because you've got people from other countries providing it. So currently we've got a Syrian lady and a lady from Sudan who are doing that. We've recently started a sort of a young women's group who actually come to one of the drop-ins and provide various activities for other kind of young women, but also kind of turn their hand to helping with the creche facilities that we've got there. So there's a lot going on, and we do have this advisory group which is made up of asylum seekers and refugees who meet regularly. And one of the things that we've kind of been developing more is actually kind of trying to give the people that we support direct voice. So rather than it being a load of, middle-aged people who from the kind of existing communities, trying to communicate what people need and what their motivations are for coming here in the first place, we're trying to sort of put those people sort of front and central. So we recently had there's been a kind of a mass lobby of MPs in relation to the earned settlement proposals, and we had a party of refugees and asylum seekers going up to meet their MPs in Parliament. So that was quite a sort of powerful thing for them to be able to do.
Yes, that's tremendous. Something that chimed there was, Happy, you'd been talking about two things: the park, the transformation you've seen in the park since you've been working there, and also the local diverse culture. So tell us a bit about that.
So yeah, we're working in, as Kate mentioned, we're working in one of the hotels as well. So I hear what you say. I echo it. Basically, some of the young people there, they feel a bit shy to come back into the park. They feel a bit security. So we ended up, with the hotel's permission, we ended up delivering sports in the hotel, so that we could build up that relationship. So we purposely done it on a Saturday because we were delivering already in Waltham Cross on Saturday, and our job was to encourage those young people to trust the staff members and to come to the park. So they started to come to the park now, so which is amazing. We have a small little youth forum group, a young forum group, which get elected every 12 months, yeah. So it's their peers that vote who should be in power, and we consult them on basically regarding about what should be taking place in the areas. They actually inspect us. So they check us if the staff members are doing a good job, the volunteers are doing, is the service being delivered on what it says on the tin as well. So we make sure that there's community cohesion taking place, but not just the community cohesion, but the diversity. We're catering for everybody. I mentioned it to Daniel yesterday. The beauty about sports is it's the same language. So you can speak any language you want, but when it comes to the court, playing basketball, football, hockey, it's the same language. And I remember this when Mo Farah said it, because I was saying it to Danielle that Mo Farah came over in a difficult situation into the UK, and he represents Britain. Like, we're very, very proud of him and what he's achieved for Britain. And when he said that statement, that the only thing that he was able to do at his young age was sports, because it was a universal language. And that touched me, and I was thinking, that is what we're going to be doing. And we still see it in our communities. Like, when we play basketball, there are young people there that can't speak English, but they can play basketball, they can play football, and they also can be part of our youth forum. Even if English is a barrier, we try and understand what they're trying to say. So when we order food, similar thing, what we go through as well, we sometimes order pizza or fish and chips or whatever it is, what the young people want. But a young person from another country could say, no, I want to try something different. And some of the young people said they've never tried it. Unless we say, let's try it. Let's do it together and let's try it. We get scoring in. And there's always nice compliments because it's a different palate, different taste. So the young people are complimenting the food. We also started up a new project called Cozy Club, which was to encourage more young females to play sports. So we've got females that are very, very reserved, especially from the hotels as well, very reserved on playing sports and being out in the public as well. So we created this Cozy Club project, which is it's a closed-off environment where there's 3-4 young female staff members, and it's just to get them to feel comfortable on chatting to a colleague, trying to understand why they don't do sports or why they don't do certain things. And it could be a cultural reason, it could be different anxiety, various different reasons. And our job is to make sure we make them feel comfortable. And we have been successful at it because some of the girls have tried out boxing, calisthenics, and various other sports as well. But again, they come from a wide range of diverse background as well. So it's just amazing to see sports could speak all types of languages. I've lost count on how many languages we've got in the park. I'm not going to count. But yeah, it's just amazing.
I think that you two have got you two groups have got quite a lot you could talk about outside this, which would be really interesting on the sporting front. Right, I think we've covered it a bit, but what are the current challenges you think you've got for as groups and also for your beneficiaries? I know many of those are noted in the news for Hearts Welcomes Refugees, but talking about your organisation, Kate and Katie, or what are the main challenges?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think some of it's been covered, as you said. The wider kind of context, I suppose, for our work is definitely one of the big challenges in terms of attitudes, but also obviously in terms of kind of changing government policies and processes, and us having to adapt very quickly to those changes, and also help the people we're working with to kind of navigate those and understand what's going on, to navigate their kind of uncertainty of their situation and when sudden changes might happen. So that means, I suppose, that we as a team, and especially as we're volunteer led, it's quite hard to keep kind of 200 volunteers updated on all of that, and so that they know how best to support people. So I think that's one of the challenges we're trying to work through, is how do we best support our volunteers so that they can then provide the best information and support and guidance to the people we're working with, and also kind of support volunteer well-being, since it's such a they're dealing with really complex cases and people that are in a lot of distress a lot of the time. I think also, I think funding wise, that kind of ties in a bit, because we do get some kind of government or local authority funding, and that has been a kind of important thing, but that is also very uncertain in the current climate, and we don't know when that might change and how long it might last. So that kind of means organisation wise, sometimes it's a bit hard to plan as well and know, how things are going to evolve.
Of course. And I think people might be interested to hear how the funding that you've had from HCF has helped. I know we haven't given you all the funding that you've needed, but over the years, HCF fund holders have supported quite a few things. But how are they helping with community strength, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's really valuable. I think that's enabled us to obviously to keep supporting our volunteers who are doing these key things like befriending, signposting, teaching English, which are all essential for people's kind of integration and the community cohesion. And it's enabled us to meet essential needs. So we've used funding to support people when they're transitioning accommodation. They're often, if they're moving into the community, they might get a flat that's completely empty. So we'll try to at least get some kind of bedding, air beds, maybe like a electric hob or, a fridge, so that they can have something and just can start to be able to settle, really, which obviously is so important for them, that longer term integration and kind of community resilience as well. So I think that obviously, and we're also supporting, with other important items people might need, school uniforms, shoes, phones, so people can kind of build their networks and have that support. And we're always trying to get pre-loved items wherever we can, but sometimes we also, are kind of sourcing goods where we have to. This all ties in, I suppose, to then actually arranging activities where we bring people together. And our meeting last night was one example, actually, of bringing together people from all different kind of parts of the community. Another one we've done recently, which was really lovely, was a school that wanted to organise an event for the refugee families in their school to help kind of orientate them, and we got involved with that and helped to identify families and bring them along and encourage them to join that event, which was really successful. So that was a really a really nice example, I think, of kind of supporting that cohesion as well. Kate, do you want to add anything? Oh, I can stop there.
No. No, I just think, we're kind of dealing with people who are marginalised, and particularly, everybody's struggling with the cost of living, but particularly people who are moving, who've been asylum seekers and are moving into the community once they've got refugee status. They don't have the support networks that lots of people do have. They don't have the kind of financial backing, because as an asylum seeker, basically you can't work. And if you've been living in a hotel, they get £9 per person per week. So there's no possibility of saving. So being able to sort of help with the absolute basics, we're not providing anything fancy, is really important, because it sort of stops them kind of sliding into further kind of poverty, and it kind of just gives them a better start to the next phase of their life.
That's fantastic. One of the things I took away from last night was one of your beneficiaries who was on your advisory group. Oh no, sorry, one of your volunteers was talking about dignity not being conditional. And I know Hafli's nodding, because when we had a chat earlier, you were talking about how helping the more deprived families, but without in a subtle way, to enable them to be included in your work. And I thought that really chimes. And the other thing that came out last night was that somebody who had started off as an asylum seeker, who said that her experience is that you've been building lives, changing lives and building communities. And Happy, I think you may well have something to add. I know we talked about the challenges you have of trying to replicate your work across the community because it's been so successful here. But is there anything you'd like to add about the funding that you've had and how it's helping to do just that?
The funding that we receive, we're always grateful. Any funding that we receive, it goes directly to the project. It helped us to create Girls Kicks, where I think we've had over 100 girls now play football with us, which has been amazing, and from all different backgrounds as well. And it also helped us to match fund it with the boxing and the calisthenic as well, which were other sorts of funding that came in as well. So they've been amazing that we were able to deliver it in the park as well for the whole family, basically. The challenges that we do face is basically that we're now getting more councillors and more communities saying that, can you replicate that, what you're delivering Waltham Cross in this park and this park? But we don't have a lot of funding, so we do what we can. So those are one of the challenges. Funding has always been a challenge, but also courses. So we always train up our volunteers and our staff members. So we want to make sure that those opportunities are always available. So I've got a really good relationship with some of the universities, some of the colleges, where they offer out some of these free courses because I've been in the sector for so long. I'm able to signpost some of these young people that want to become youth workers or coaches, which gets covered, which is really nice sometimes. But I get scared sometimes because there'll be a stage where I have to pay for it. And I don't want to put that charge on those young people or adults that have been helping out. The other challenges was basically we never had so I grew up in a world where we had a youth strategy. The youth strategy only got established literally in December of last year. So we're going to see certain youth alternative provision that's going to be growing, which is exciting. But I was in the era of growing up, well, recently, last 10 years, we never had a youth strategy, a national strategy. So there's pros and cons, but it's the hustle and bustle that we have to go through to make sure that these young people get equality, fairness, on accessing loads of different projects with us. And we just want to make sure we listen to them as well and be the voice for those young people as well. So that's the main aim.
Thank you, Happy. That's tremendous. And thanks to all of you. It's been really great hearing you talk about your work, and certainly could do so for hours because I know that you do so much. You do have a lot in common, although you're doing very different things, and it is a lot focusing on building the community and building dignity and equality. And thank you for all the work you're doing, helping build stronger communities. So, and thank you very much for your time. It's absolutely a pleasure to chat to you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You too, yeah.
Thank you.